Hoj here for episode 2 of the HojCast, and I realize that it's been quite a while since I've put one of these up and recorded one of these. Want to tell you on the front end, I moved recently, and that's been a lot of why I have been non-present. Absent would be the word I'm looking for. That's why I've been absent from the internet for a while, because I have been moving. I moved to a completely different town, brand new people. Been lots of fun. I'm really enjoying it. It's for work, and so my wife and I are comfortably in a new town and kind of more situated and able to do these sorts of things. The last time we met, I talked about doing a Zelda episode, and I was all set to do that today. And then I found out that The Legend of Zelda for the Wii U has been delayed. This happens quite often, maybe a little too often in the gaming industry, at least as of late, and I wanted to spend some time talking about that. So first of all, I want to vent my frustrations with The Legend of Zelda Wii U being delayed and talk a little bit about what I feel about that. So basically, if there's ever a game, and this is what I tell people all the time, when I get a new Nintendo system, I pretty much get the newest Nintendo system every time, because there will one day be a Zelda game. And I have grown up playing the Zelda franchise. It's one of my most favoritist? No, that's not a word. I know it's not. But it is my most favorite game series, and I always get the Nintendo systems for that very reason. If it weren't for that, if there were no Zelda games, I don't know 100% that I would buy a Nintendo system. That's just me being super honest. I mean, there would be reasons for handheld systems, like I'm a big Pokemon player, so I would buy the handhelds, but there'd be no reason, I don't think, to get a Wii U. I mean, the Mario games are kind of fun, but they haven't really done anything to surprise me lately, so I haven't really been playing them. I know I didn't get the last one, but Zelda, always where I go. And when I was at E3 last year, I was super stoked to see Zelda U, or whatever it was going to be called, being announced. I thought, heck yeah, this is the reason I bought a Wii U. This is the reason, honestly, that I got this thing, and I'm excited. And I saw the footage, and I was excited. But there was this small part of me in the back of my brain that went, man, they've done this to me before, where they released this awesome video, this awesome footage, and then that stuff never sees the light of day. If you can think back or remember to a long time ago, there was some E3 footage, very high def Zelda. It was almost Twilight Princess-y. He had the chainmail thing going on, and that came out much before Twilight Princess even thought about being a thing, and we never saw the light of day of that footage. I mean, I'm assuming that footage is kind of what became Twilight Princess, but it was this kind of tech demo that never got, we officially didn't get that, and I feel like that might be what's happening here, and I'm bummed about that, because that footage was freaking glorious, and I'm sure that the final game will be glorious as well, but to shelve it at least a year is unfortunate, and that we're not even going to hear anything about it at E3. They said they're not sure if they're going to talk about it at E3, or maybe they said they're not going to. I don't remember. I didn't look that up that deep, because I was already mad enough. But it's delayed, and I think it speaks to what I think. That's not a word either. Man, I am all about non-words tonight. But I think it speaks to a bigger problem in the gaming industry, and I don't know, let me say that before I go farther there, I don't know 100% that it's a problem with the gaming industry, or if it's a problem with the way we expect the gaming industry to behave as far as giving us things, but this is what tends to happen, and I've seen it happen with a lot of games. I've seen it happen with Watch Dogs, I've seen it happen with, with Zelda U, obviously. Saw it happen with a lot of games. The PC port of GTA 5 is that way. You just continue to see it happen. I think they delayed some Destiny stuff here recently. Delays are a thing that we are going to have to deal with, because here's why. What happens is a game company says, oh, we have this cool game coming out at some point, and then we, the consumer, go, oh my god, tell me everything right now, I want to know it all. And they try to do that sort of thing. But in that same breath, we say, okay, now that your game is not even out and you've only given us a little bit of footage, we want to know how it's better than every other game that's coming out that we only know a little bit about. You have to tell me now why I want to buy your game, even though your game may not come out for a year or so. And so what companies are doing is they're promising very big things for games. Very, very big. I think the biggest one that I think back to of how it was a disappointment as it relates to what they showed us at different times was Watch Dogs. Watch Dogs was a game that I was beyond excited about. The first footage I ever saw of it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be the best game ever. I can't wait. Oh my goodness. When I ordered my PS4, I pre-ordered it when I got my PS4, and it was still a ways off, but I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and pre-order it for this thing, but then we found out, gonna be delayed. And it was delayed quite a while. I don't remember exactly how long. So the game comes out, and almost everything that I felt like I was promised was not delivered in that game. That game, to me, played a lot like Assassin's Creed with cell phones, which is, I knew there was going to be an element of that, but the way they showed it off, the way they talked about it, it all was like, oh no, it's not going to be like that. It's going to be, all this is going to be crazy good, and I just felt like they weren't delivering. Now, I can say that's a problem with them, and it is to an extent. Don't promise things you can't do. But I wonder if it's not like indicative of, well, you know, your game may not come out for 2 years, but here we are 2 years from a release, and I need to know every reason that I need to put my time and my energy and my thoughts and maybe even my pre-order into your game. And so companies are promising us the moon, and they're not delivering. And I think we've just sort of allowed that to happen. And I'm worried that maybe we can't come back from that. I don't know exactly what to do about it, except for maybe we as the consumer need to be okay with not knowing everything. And I know that's hard for us because we want to know everything. I mean, I think quite often I find out about a new thing and I want to Google it immediately, and if there's not a lot of information or a wealth of information out there on the internet, then I'm done. And that thing that speaks to our sort of ADD mindset, that, well, if I can't find out about it now, then it must not be worth finding out about. And it just makes me think. I think back to growing up, and what was my connection to games that weren't out at the time? I mean, I played a lot of Nintendo games as a kid, so obviously Nintendo Power was like my go-to, right? Game Informer came on in my life a little bit later as far as like when I got it. But those were my outlets. I mean, the internet was around, but it was a very new thing and a very not as useful thing as it is now. It was a lot harder to find things, a lot slower to find things if you're familiar with dial-up. And so I think, man, all my news just came from magazines, which you're limited to a release schedule there. You're limited to when they can talk about it. And honestly, I remember there being hype for games. I mean, obviously, I mentioned playing Zelda games, and Zelda games were much hyped, especially in amongst Nintendo, like in Nintendo Power. You'd be hyped about a Zelda game for forever, man, and they'd talk about it for forever until, you know, because it was a big deal. It was a big deal for them. That was their method of hyping it. And I remember being excited about it, but I don't ever remember being like so far out from a release date being wrapped up into a game's progress, because honestly, there's just not a lot that you can show, I think. Now, I'm saying all this not being a game developer, I don't know anything about that, really. Only thing I know is the time I've spent working with game developers, and this is what's hard about working in that world. You have what you know. If you're let's put yourself in the game developer's shoes. You have what you know, which is what is a current existing build of a game, You know the next couple of builds sometimes. You know, okay, well, this team is working on this, and that's going to be able to go in the next build, and this team is working on that, and that's going to be able to go in the next build, at least we hope, yada, yada, yada. And you know all of those things, so you know sort of the past of the game, so you know the past development, you know the current, the present, and you know really some of the future development. But see, the thing is, some of those future developments won't make it into the final game. And so the option is this. You can start to talk to people as a game developer about the current stable build. And if you do that, then you're dealing with stuff that's actually there, stuff that's almost probably going to be in the final, or at least you know it's working, right? If you start delving into future things, you get into a world where things may or may not happen. When I worked with, the company that made Brickforce, and the name is escaping me at the moment. Not the company that made Brickforce, but the company that that distributed it in its current state. Oh, man, it's escaping me now, and I'm very sorry to that company. But when I worked with them, and I worked to do a little show called Brickforce, Operation Brickforce, and it was like kind of a news segment, and I worked with them a little bit to kind of try to take. I got some looks at the dev notes and things like that as I was kind of working in that world. And man, I'll tell you what was hard is that, you know, I would get lists and there would be, you know, what was currently going on in the build and those things I could talk about, the things that were playable by a customer base at the time. And there would be these things in the future that you don't talk about those yet. And I totally get that because those are things that may or may not make it into the game. But I worry and I wonder sometimes if what's happening is some of these companies have big aspirations of things they want to put in their game, and maybe they're talking about those. That's not a good idea. And again, I don't really know because I'm not working with these bigger companies, but I just gotta wonder, how does it continue happening that in several major game releases, and these are not little companies, these are big companies that are trying really hard to do what they're doing, and they're making a lot of money doing it, and somehow what seems to me like bad like PR communication thing is happening, and that's what I can't work with. You know what? I mean, we as a consumer base, we want to know way too much. We're going to pester you until you tell us something. I get it. But I guess what I want to see is companies hold themselves to a higher standard, and maybe don't say, hey, it's coming now when it's not. That's just, I think, what needs to happen. There needs to be a movement, too, in the consumer base to just wait for things. I know that it's hard. I have a hard time with it myself, just waiting for things. This is not game related, but there's, you know, the show Arrested Development was kind of became a cult classic, and there was this kind of a couple of years there where it was like, okay, are we making a movie? Are we doing a show, another season? Are we doing this? Are we doing that? And it kind of got strung along, and so it'd be like, oh, we're making a movie, and then, oh, crap, we're not making a movie, and oh, we're making a movie, and oh, we're not making a movie. And this went on over and over and over and over and over. And I listened to the Nerdist podcast, and which if you are not listening to Nerdist, oh my God, go listen to Nerdist. But I listened to the Nerdist podcast, and they were talking to Mitch Hurwitz, the guy who created that show, and he talked about how all these rumors kept happening, and most of them were linked back to an actor on the show who would hear from Mitch that, hey, we're gonna start working on the movie. He would mention it to the press, and then the press would put it out there, and then everyone thought, oh, they're doing it now, and then they'd be like, oh, well, you know, we're still waiting, and then that's how this sort of back and forth between the fan base and the actors and the creators all sort of happened, is that people were really saying things when things weren't ready to be said. And I just wonder if some of that is our fault as a consumer. And so my encouragement, my push, my whatever you want to call it, to consumers is like, man, just wait. Because when given the chance, companies will surprise you. I think there's a lot of push to get companies to surprise us now. Tell me now what's awesome. Tell me now what's good. And there's an effort on the companies to make that happen. But I think we're starting to see it blow back in our face. And maybe we should just learn to wait. As a kid, I remember, you'd hear smatterings of a new Zelda game. You would hear, oh, this is happening, or that's happening, or this is going to be in there maybe. And some of it was there, some of it like it is today, but not on the level of today. And so there was something outrageously fun as a kid about opening up a game, putting it in, and playing things you'd never seen, and seeing things you'd never heard about. And that was what gaming was about. I mean, at this point, we know so much about the games, or we know so much about what the games hope to be before they ever come out, that when we see them in reality, we are sometimes let down. And I think that's not a good spot for us. That's not a good spot for developers. And I think it would be better for us all if we could just maybe not do that. So that's my thought on game delays. A little bit shorter episode. Go ahead and let me, if you're watching on the YouTubes, let me know what you would like to hear about next time we do a HojCast. If you're listening on iTunes, don't forget to leave us a review and tell your friends and all those sorts of things, because that helps us out a lot. And I will see you guys for the next HojCast. Go ahead and check me out on YouTube at youtube.com/HojJoshMC, or sometimes you can find me live streaming over at beam.pro/HojJoshMC, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.